The fire spread fast. The school was in chaos. But in the heart of the flames, one girl was still inside, and her only hope, a mysterious golden retriever in a cape who no one had ever seen before. Like the video and subscribe for more unbelievable rescues by SuperRetrivier. It was supposed to be just another Thursday at St. Clair's High School. The morning sun filtered gently through the glass windows of the campus library. Students chatted, teachers passed by with coffee in hand, and the air was filled with the typical noise of backpacks zipping, bells ringing, and pages turning. Anna, a quiet 14-year-old girl who preferred books to people, had arrived early as usual. Her favorite spot was the last table near the corner window, where the sunlight hit just right, and the world felt far away. She wasn't popular, and she didn't mind. Books were her world, especially stories about heroes. She loved the idea that someone could come out of nowhere and change everything. That morning, she was deep in a novel about a firefighter who rescued animals from burning buildings. Ironically fitting. But she didn't know that within a few hours, she'd be living a story more unbelievable than anything she'd ever read. Meanwhile, in the nearby neighborhood, something stirred. A golden retriever, sleek and bright-eyed, padded quietly through a quiet alley. Around his shoulders fluttered a tiny red cape, handmade and slightly tattered. Where Superman's S should be was a bold, shimmering red R. No one knew where he came from. No one knew his name. But they would soon know him as SuperRetrivier. Back at school, students poured into the classrooms. Teachers handed out quizzes. Anna stayed in the library during second period, finishing her book while the rest of the students went off to class. The fire started in the chemistry lab. No one noticed it at first. A spark, a drip of flammable liquid, a mistake during an experiment, and the flames had already taken hold before the alarm blared. Red lights flashed, a loud siren screamed. Panic erupted. Students flooded the hallways. Teachers yelled for everyone to evacuate. Smoke filled the air. Outside, sirens from fire trucks roared in the distance. But inside the library, Anna didn't hear the alarm. She had her headphones on. The smoke crept in slowly, curling around the wooden shelves. By the time she looked up and smelled the burning paper, it was already too late. She tried the door, locked. The smoke grew thicker. She screamed and banged on the window, but the glass was soundproof. Outside, no one noticed her, but someone else did. From across the playground, SuperRetrivier stopped. His ears twitched. His golden fur glowed under the hazy sky. He turned, his head staring straight at the building, at the library. Without a second thought, he took off in a sprint, his cape flapping behind him like a flame. A hero had heard the call, and the fire was only beginning. The shrill cry of the fire alarm cut through the air like a knife. At first, students paused, unsure if it was just another drill. But within seconds, smoke began pouring into the hallways, and panic followed like a wave crashing through the school. Screams echoed as doors burst open and students scrambled out of classrooms. Teachers shouted directions, trying to guide everyone toward the exits, but the smoke made it nearly impossible to see clearly. The hallways that once buzzed with idle chatter were now filled with chaos, coughing, crying, running feet, and confusion. Outside, the gym coach, Mr. Warren, took charge. "Everyone head to the field! Keep moving! Don't look back!" His voice boomed through the fog as he guided students toward safety. One by one, they spilled into the open air, some coughing, others crying, all scared. The flames, meanwhile, spread with terrifying speed. Inside the building, a fire door had jammed, redirecting smoke toward the east wing, straight to the library. The thick black cloud slithered through air vents and under doors, devouring everything in its path. Anna now knew she was trapped. She had tried everything, banging the door, calling for help, but her phone had no signal inside the thick stone. Walls of the library, Her eyes stung. Her throat burned. She crouched under a table, pulling her hoodie over her mouth, but the smoke kept coming. Fear crawled over her like a second skin. And then, through the haze outside, a flash of red. It wasn't the fire trucks. They were still minutes away. It wasn't a teacher or firefighter. It was SuperRetrivier. The golden retriever stood still for a moment in front of the smoke-filled entrance of the school. His nose twitched, analyzing the scent. His eyes focused on the upper floor where the library was. And then, without hesitation, he ran straight into the building. No leash, no owner, no fear. The front doors were still open, swinging loosely. From the rush of students who had poured out moments earlier, SuperRetrivier darted in, weaving through desks, jumping over fallen chairs, guided only by instinct or something greater. The fire pressed inward, crackling and spitting, but the dog kept moving. Down the hallway, up the stairs. Anna, coughing. Violently now, heard a distant sound. Claws on linoleum. It was fast, steady, getting closer. She lifted her head, her vision blurred. Then a golden shape burst through the smoke, barking once, loud and clear. Anna's eyes widened. Was she hallucinating? The golden retriever barked again, circled the door, then leapt against it, full force. Once, twice, a third time. Something clicked. The door creaked open slightly, just enough for the dog to wedge his nose through and push. Anna collapsed in shock as the golden figure stepped in, smoke swirling behind him like a scene from a superhero movie. Around his neck, a red cape fluttered. On his chest, a glowing red R. SuperRetrivier? She whispered, barely able to speak. He didn't bark this time. He simply walked up to her, gently nudged her arm with his nose, and turned toward the door, tail raised, cape flicking with purpose. The message was clear. Follow me. And somehow, despite the fear and the smoke and the fire inching closer, she did. Anna's legs trembled as she followed the golden retriever through the doorway. Her lungs burned, her vision swam, but something about the dog's steady pace gave her strength. His golden coat shimmered through the smoke, a flicker of hope in the darkness. The library behind her was now a furnace, flames licking the bookshelves, smoke curling up to the high ceilings. If SuperRetrivier had arrived just seconds later, she wouldn't have made it out. But the danger wasn't over. The hallway was an inferno. Flames crawled along the floor, devouring papers and lockers alike. Ceiling tiles crashed down as the fire ate away at the structure. The heat was unbearable, and every step forward felt like walking through an oven. Anna dropped to her knees. "I can't," she coughed. "I can't make it." SuperRetrivier turned immediately. He circled back, nudged her gently, then grabbed the hem of her hoodie in his teeth, tugging. Come on. She looked at him through teary eyes. How could a dog be so calm, so determined? He wasn't panting. He wasn't afraid. He was focused, heroic. And in that moment, Anna made a choice. She pushed herself up, leaning one hand against the wall. She'd follow him, even if it was the last thing she did. SuperRetrivier led her past the stairs, dodging fallen beams and patches of fire. Twice he stopped, sniffing the air, calculating a safer path. It was almost as if he knew the building, as if he'd studied it before, or as if something more was guiding him. Down one corridor, the flames blocked the exit entirely. SuperRetrivier paused, ears up, then bolted through a side door, one Anna didn't even know existed. It led to a narrow service hallway used by janitors, and it was less affected by the fire. For now. They had just made it halfway when a deafening crash shook the floor. Part of the ceiling caved in behind them, sealing the hallway they'd just passed through. Anna screamed, heart pounding. The smoke surged forward like a wave. They had seconds. SuperRetrivier turned back to her, barked once, loud and fierce, then sprinted ahead again. Anna ran after him. She didn't know how she had the strength, but every step behind that red cape felt like following a miracle. Finally, they reached the emergency stairwell. The bottom was blocked by rubble, but the top, leading to the roof, was clear. SuperRetrivier bounded up the steps without hesitation. Anna followed. As they reached the final door to the rooftop, Anna's legs gave out again. She collapsed just as SuperRetrivier pushed the heavy door with his front paws. It creaked open and sunlight poured in through the smoke. Cool air. Fresh air. The roof. Anna crawled toward it, sobbing, coughing, shaking. Then hands. Firefighters. They had reached the roof from the opposite side, finally responding to reports of someone trapped inside. They rushed to her. One wrapped a blanket around her. Another checked her pulse. But when Anna looked up, SuperRetrivier was gone. "Wait!" she gasped. "Where's the dog? The golden retriever?" The firefighters exchanged confused glances. "There was no dog up here when we arrived," one said, Anna's eyes filled with tears. "No. He led me here. He saved me." But no paw prints, no collar, no trace, only a red thread from his cape caught on the rooftop door. While Anna was being treated by paramedics on the school rooftop, the crowd below was still in a frenzy. Parents had arrived, students huddled together in blankets, teachers frantically recounted names. One by one, survivors were marked as safe, but one name remained missing. "Anna Taylor," Principal Morris muttered, eyes scanning the sheet. "Still unaccounted for." That's when someone shouted from the rooftop, "She's alive! We found her!" Cheers erupted. Everyone looked up just in time to see the stretcher being carefully lifted down the fire escape. Anna, pale and wrapped in a blanket, had her hand clutched tightly around something, a single red thread. "She kept saying a dog saved her," said the firefighter beside her. "A golden retriever." The principal raised a brow. "A dog? You're sure?" The firefighter nodded. "Said he wore a cape. Red. With an arm." Confused murmurs followed. A few students whispered to each other. Did she inhale too much? Smoke? Maybe she imagined it. But far from the school, across the park and past the tree line, something gold and red moved silently through the underbrush. SuperRetrivier. He emerged near a quiet lake, his fur singed at the edges, cape darkened by soot but still fluttering gently in the breeze. He walked slowly, deliberately, and reached the water's edge. There he sat and stared at his reflection. A reflection that seemed different. Behind him, the trees rustled. Another dog appeared, a black Labrador, older with cloudy eyes. The lab approached quietly and sat beside him. "You went in," the lab seemed to say without words. "You weren't supposed to." SuperRetrivier didn't bark. He only lowered his head slightly. "She was going to die," the lab said again. "You know what this means." SuperRetrivier turned to the older dog, eyes clear, steady, unafraid. "I know." Then the wind changed. And just like that, SuperRetrivier vanished into the trees. Back at the school, Anna insisted on telling her story. She sat on the back of an ambulance, oxygen mask removed, the red thread still in her hand. "He was real," she told the fire captain. "He barked and opened the door. He led me through the building. He looked at me like he understood." Her voice trembled. "No one believes me." The fire captain crouched beside her, thoughtful. "Sometimes," he said, "heroes don't leave footprints." Anna looked up at him, eyes full of both confusion and wonder. But if no one saw him, how did he know I was in there? The captain smiled gently. Maybe some heroes don't need to know. Maybe they just feel it. Anna held the thread tighter. And at that exact moment, a breeze swept through the parking lot. Brief, warm, and strangely comforting. It brushed her cheek like a nuzzle. She turned instinctively, scanning the horizon. But there was no one there. Only the distant sound of a rustling cape. Flashback. 2 minutes before Anna reached the rooftop. Smoke choked the stairwell as SuperRetrivier leapt from step to step, never hesitating. His paws were blistered. His breathing was heavy. But he pressed on, the red cape fluttering behind. Him like a flame that refused to be extinguished. Anna stumbled behind him, barely able to see. Each breath burned her lungs. Each step felt heavier than the last. She didn't know how much longer she could hold on. Then, a sharp crack. Above them, the ceiling beam. SuperRetrivier stopped instantly and turned his head upward. The wooden support beam above the stairwell creaked once, twice, then gave way. "Watch out!" Anna screamed, but it was too late. The beam collapsed in a cloud of splinters and fire. It plummeted down the stairwell directly over Anna. In the blink of an eye, SuperRetrivier leapt, not away, toward her. He launched himself up the steps, across the burning gap, his golden body flying like a streak of light through the smoke. His cape snapped in the air as he crashed into Anna, knocking her aside just as the beam slammed into the stairs. The entire stairwell shook. Fire roared. They both tumbled sideways, landing hard on the stone platform beside the final rooftop. "Door!" Anna gasped, coughing violently. SuperRetrivier groaned. His front paw was injured. He stood, limping slightly, but still turned to face the door. Despite the pain, despite the burns, he nudged the metal handle with his nose and barked twice. Anna's vision blurred. She couldn't believe it. He had saved her again. Risked. Everything for her. She crawled up beside him, and together, shoulder to fur, they pushed. The door creaked open. Sunlight poured in, and with it, the sound of helicopters and sirens in the distance. Anna collapsed halfway through the doorway, coughing and crying, as SuperRetrivier stood guard beside her. Just then, voices echoed from the far end of the rooftop. Firefighters. One of them spotted the dog. "Hey! There's a..." But before he could finish, SuperRetrivier turned. Their eyes met for one brief second. Then, he ran. He sprinted toward the opposite side of the roof, took 3 long strides, and with one final burst of strength, he jumped. Golden blur in the sunlight. Over the edge, into the thick smoke below. Gone. The firefighter blinked. What the hell? By the time the team reached the spot where the dog had vanished, there was no sign of him. No body, no fall, just the rooftop edge and the faint scent of something warm, like toasted fur and rain. Anna, barely conscious, clutched at the red. Thread once more. He jumped. The fire captain knelt beside her. "Who?" She whispered through cracked lips. "SuperRetrivier." Inside the burning school, the world had become a maze of fire and fear. But in that chaos, Anna had something no one else did. A guide made of golden fur and impossible courage. SuperRetrivier didn't need maps. He didn't need instructions. He felt where to go. His paws moved with purpose, weaving through corridors wrapped in smoke. Every time Anna hesitated, he paused. Every time she fell behind, he looked back. Not with panic, not with frustration, but with the calm patience of someone who knew she was meant to make it out. Anna's legs were shaking again. The flames had nearly blocked their path to the stairwell. The hallway was split. On the left, collapsed ceiling. On the right, thick smoke. And in the center, fire eating through the floorboards. Anna froze. "There's no way through," she said, eyes wide. "We're trapped." SuperRetrivier stared at the fire. And then, he moved. To her shock, he stepped into it. Not recklessly, but slowly, choosing his steps carefully between burning patches. His paw pads singed, his fur darkened, but he crossed the hallway, safely, and then turned back to her. Anna's heart raced. I can't do that." He barked once, short, commanding, then walked halfway back as if to say, "If I can do it, so can you." Anna's hands trembled. The heat seared her skin. She looked at him, this silent guardian with a red cape and wise eyes, and something in her chest shifted. She took a step, then another. The heat was unbearable. Her legs buckled once, but she didn't stop. SuperRetrivier met her in the middle of the hallway and nudged her side, guiding her the rest of the way. They reached the other side, coughing, stumbling, but alive, and just in time. Behind them, the floor cracked and gave way. If they'd hesitated another second, they didn't have long. SuperRetrivier led her into a classroom and toward a storage closet she never knew existed. He pawed at the floor until a trap door creaked open, an old maintenance hatch likely forgotten by everyone except the janitor. He barked once and darted down. Anna followed. It was dark, narrow, and filled with dust, but it was away from the fire. The passage led them to a rear hallway that connected directly to the east stairwell. Above them, the fire was still raging. But SuperRetrivier paused at the foot of the stairs, head tilted. He barked again, this time softer, almost like reassurance. Anna put her hand on his back, steadying herself. "You knew this place. You saved me." SuperRetrivier didn't reply. He just climbed the stairs. At the top was the rooftop door. He stopped, looked back one last time. Anna reached for the handle, and that's when the beam fell. And SuperRetrivier leapt to save her. Back to the present. Anna sits in the hospital, bandaged and silent, watching the rain outside. On her bedside table, her burned phone, and a piece of red cloth. The doctors say she was lucky, that she should have passed out from the smoke. But she didn't, because she wasn't alone. She was guided by a paw through the flames. Even heroes have limits. And as the fire reached its peak inside St. Clair's High School, so did the danger. Structural supports buckled, glass shattered from the heat. Entire sections of the building began to collapse, walls caving, ceilings crumbling like paper. And somewhere in the middle of it all was SuperRetrivier. The golden retriever limped through the ruins of the east wing, fur blackened with soot, cape torn but still clinging to his back. He didn't bark, he didn't whine. He moved, carefully, silently, through the destruction. He had done what he came for. Anna was safe. But something inside him told him not to leave yet. A voice, a feeling, a pull. And then, the floor gave out beneath him. Crash! He fell hard through a collapsed stairwell and landed on a pile of burning wood below. Sparks exploded around him as debris rained from above. Outside, firefighters shouted over radios. Ceiling collapse near Sector 3. We've lost that access. We need to pull the teams back. Walls are going. From the control van, Chief Rivera looked at the floor plan. Is anyone inside? The crew shook their heads. Everyone's accounted for, except the girl, but she's already out. Rivera narrowed his eyes. Then what's still moving on thermal? Back inside, SuperRetrivier struggled to rise. His front paw had twisted on the fall. One eye was swollen shut. But he got up. Because heroes don't stop when they're tired. They stop when the job is done. He limped through the burning wreckage, heading for the back courtyard. It was the only path not completely consumed by fire. But the heat was worsening. Oxygen was thinning. SuperRetrivier paused under a collapsed doorway, panting heavily, tongue out. He wasn't going to make it, unless he took the long way. Across the courtyard was the school's art room. A tall, wide window had blown out during the explosion. The room was filled with paint, paper, and clay, but more importantly, it had a skylight. It was a risk. He limped through the courtyard, dodging sparks and falling embers. As he reached the edge of the art room, a second wall behind him gave way and slammed into the ground. The tremor nearly knocked him off his feet, but he kept going. Inside the art room, the ceiling groaned under the pressure of heat and time. SuperRetrivier climbed onto a table, then another, painfully, one paw at a time. He looked up. The skylight, his aid, way out. With everything he had left, he crouched and leapt. His body collided with the glass and bounced back. The skylight didn't break. He whimpered once. The room began to shake. He had one more chance. SuperRetrivier looked up, eyes burning with the reflection of fire and moonlight, and leapt again. This time, the glass gave way, and SuperRetrivier disappeared into the smoke above. Outside, students watched as a golden blur emerged from the rooftop skylight, soared into the smoke, and vanished. No one caught him on the ground. No security cameras followed him past the trees. But something strange happened next. A breeze swept across the campus. The flames died faster than expected. And the only thing left behind in the courtyard was a red thread. They say every hero has a final moment, the one decision that defines everything. For SuperRetrivier, that moment came in mid-air. His body crashed through the skylight, surrounded by broken glass and smoke. As he soared above the burning art room, his red cape flared like a flare in the dusk. Students below gasped. Some screamed. Others simply stared, mouths open, as the golden figure seemed to float for a heartbeat. And then he vanished, disappeared into the thick gray sky. No one saw where he landed. No one found him near the school. But Anna did. Not in body, not in sound, in feeling. She was watching the scene unfold from the back of an ambulance, her head wrapped in gauze, her eyes red from smoke. A nurse tried to comfort her, but Anna was frozen, her eyes locked on the place where he'd leapt. A place no ordinary dog could have reached. A place only SuperRetrivier could go. The other students, now safe and gathered on the field, began whispering. First in confusion, then awe. Did you see that dog? He flew. No, seriously, he flew. He saved her. Where did he go? But the teachers hushed them. Firemen dismissed it. Smoke messes with your mind, they said. You saw shadows, tricks of the light. But deep down, they weren't so sure. Because when the firefighters returned to inspect the rooftop and skylight, they found something strange. One perfect paw print, burnt into the blackened glass. And near it, a small torn corner of a cape. Miles away, in the quiet forest beyond the town, the wind shifted. A golden retriever limped slowly through the trees, injured but alive. The cape was gone, burned away, but a single thread still clung to his collar. He reached a stream and drank. Above, the moon cast silver light through the trees, illuminating his path. He paused near a fallen tree and lay down. And finally, he closed his eyes. Not forever, just for now. Because even heroes need to rest. Even legends deserve peace. Back at school, reporters had arrived. Helicopters hovered overhead. The fire was mostly out, but the smell lingered. Smoke, ash, melted, plastic. Anna sat alone in the back of a police vehicle, still holding the red thread. A young officer crouched beside her. "Hey," he said gently. "They told me a dog rescued you." She nodded. "He wasn't just a dog." "No." She smiled faintly. "He was a superhero." The officer raised a brow. "Did he have a name?" She looked down at the thread, then back at him, and whispered, "SuperRetrivier." He chuckled at first, but then saw the look in her eyes, and said nothing more. That night, on social media, a blurry photo taken by a student went viral. A golden blur in the smoke, a red cape, a title under the post, "The Dog Who Flew from the Flames." SuperRetrivier began to trend. And though no one ever found him, everyone believed. The morning after the fire, the school stood silent. Blackened walls, broken windows, and scorched earth where laughter used to echo. Police tape fluttered in the wind. Reporters buzzed like flies around the ruins, feeding on questions no one could answer. But the name on everyone's lips wasn't Anna's. It was SuperRetrivier, the dog with a red cape, the dog who vanished, the dog who shouldn't exist. Multiple witnesses now confirmed it. "I saw him jump from the rooftop," said Olivia James, a sophomore, "right through the fire." "He was wearing a cape," said Coach Warren, "red, with a letter. I thought I was hallucinating." "My daughter says she felt safe the moment she saw him," said a mother, wiping her eyes. But when firefighters returned to inspect the wreckage, no signs, no paw prints, no burned fur, no collar, no body, nothing. Just the one strange paw print in the melted glass near the skylight and the small corner of red cloth. Reporters flooded the fire chief with questions. Was there really a dog inside? Could a trained animal have done this? Are you covering up something? The chief finally stepped to the podium and cleared his throat. "We're still investigating, but what I do know is this. A young girl is alive today because of something or someone we don't yet understand." Anna watched the press conference from her hospital bed. Her burns were healing, but her mind replayed every second of that night like a loop. The fear, the flames, the bark that cut through the smoke like thunder, and that look, that one moment of eye contact before he vanished into the fire. He knew what he was doing, not just saving her, saying goodbye. Late that night, after visiting hours had ended, a soft breeze pushed through the window of her hospital room. The curtain lifted ever so slightly, and a single red thread floated onto her blanket. She froze, looked around. No one was there, but her heart raced. She sat up, picked up the thread, and smiled. He had been there, even if no one else could. See him? He hadn't left her. Back in town, rumors spread like wildfire. A dog seen near the cemetery, wearing something red. A paw print left in wet cement at a construction site. Perfectly formed, no tracks leading in or out. Children claimed to hear barks at night that didn't belong to any neighborhood pet. Whispers began to grow. He's still watching. He's out there, waiting for the next fire. Anna didn't need proof. She knew. SuperRetrivier hadn't disappeared. He had simply gone back to where heroes rest, somewhere between reality and legend, somewhere beyond the smoke. And the world. The world kept looking for him. Because once you know a miracle can wear fur and fly through fire, you never stop believing. The next morning, school was canceled indefinitely. But that didn't stop the students, teachers, and families from returning to the grounds, not to learn, to remember, to thank someone they could no longer find. A vigil formed outside the school. Gates. Flowers lined the fence. Handmade signs filled with drawings of golden retrievers and red capes appeared within hours. Thank you, SuperRetrivier. Our guardian. Real heroes don't wear masks. They wear fur. You saved her. You saved us. Candles flickered in a long row near the main gate. At the center of it all was Anna, wrapped in a coat far too big for her, a bandage on her temple, and a fragile thread of red tied around her wrist like a bracelet. She stood in front of the school, silent, eyes wide. It looked nothing like the place she'd spent her quiet mornings reading, burnt, twisted, hollow. But all she could see was the moment he burst through the smoke, the moment he chose her. Principal Morris approached slowly, placing a hand on her shoulder. His voice cracked. Anna, I don't know what to say. She looked up at him. You don't have to say anything. Because she knew what was in his eyes. Guilt. He hadn't even known she was still inside. Shock. That a child was alive because of a nameless, collarless stray. Wonder. That someone, or something, could show up when no one else could. The principal blinked away tears. Then the students began to gather around Anna, one by one. Some she barely knew. Others had never spoken to her before, but they stood beside her, hands on her shoulders, arms gently wrapping around her, even the popular girls, even the loud boys from gym class. Because today there were no cliques, no cool kids, no quiet ones, just people, grateful to still have one of their own. Later that afternoon, the fire department invited Anna to speak. She stood beside Fire Chief Rivera as cameras flashed. We all want to hear about your rescue, a reporter said gently. How did you survive? Anna held up the red thread between her fingers. I followed the light, she said softly. He found me in the smoke. When everyone else ran away, he ran in. Who? Another reporter asked. She smiled. SuperRetrivier. Silence fell over the crowd. No one laughed. No one doubted. Because deep down, they knew. Anna continued. He didn't bark for praise. He didn't wait to be seen. He just knew. And then he was gone. A small boy in the crowd raised his hand. Do you think he'll come back? Anna looked out at the field of faces, then up at the sky. If someone else ever needs him, I think he will. That night, students left bowls of food and water outside their doors. Others tied red ribbons to trees and fences. Some just whispered to the sky before bed. Thank you. And though no one saw him, many claimed they felt it. A soft rustle of air, a quiet bark in the wind, a golden warmth passing by their hearts. In the weeks that followed the fire, St. Clair's High became more than a burned building. It became the center of a growing legend. Not about a student, not about the fire, but about a dog. A dog no one could prove existed. A dog everyone swore was real. SuperRetrivier. Local. News ran nightly segments. Was the hero who saved Anna a stray, a rescue dog, or something more? Veterinarians were interviewed. Dog trainers analyzed the footage. Thermal camera images were shown on screens, blurred and zoomed into shadows that might have been paws or tricks of the heat. But none of them could explain how a dog had entered a burning building, how it had opened a door, how it had led a child through collapsing hallways, and how, in full view of dozens of people, it disappeared into smoke. Social media exploded. SuperRetrivier trended across platforms. Fan art flooded Instagram. A golden retriever with glowing eyes leaping through flames. A child riding, on his back, clutching a book and a cape fluttering in the wind. A comic panel titled "The Bark Knight Rises." TikTokers filmed fake sightings. YouTubers made conspiracy videos. One claimed SuperRetrivier was a spirit sent by ancient firefighters. Another swore he was a lost military dog still trying to serve. But none of them could deny one truth. Anna had lived, and no one else had reached her. The school board reopened an investigation. They checked nearby shelters. No recent golden retrievers had been admitted. They pulled street camera footage. Nothing before or after the fire. Not a single trace of him entering the area or leaving it. It was as if he only existed in the fire. Anna, meanwhile, returned to school once. The temporary campus was set up. She was met with hugs, applause, and a mural painted by the art students. A golden retriever standing atop a smoking rooftop, red cape billowing behind him, paw outstretched like a salute. At the bottom were 3 words. He found me. Anna touched the mural every day and tied a fresh red thread to her backpack zipper. One afternoon during science class, a substitute teacher paused her lecture and asked curiously, "Anna, do you really believe that dog was sent from somewhere else?" Anna looked out the window at the clouds, then turned back and smiled. "I don't need to believe. I remember. Somewhere, far beyond the city, a breeze passed through a field of tall grass. The sun shimmered through the trees. And if you listened closely enough, there it was, a single bark. Then silence. Years passed. The school was rebuilt, brighter, safer, stronger. The new library stood where the old one once burned, its glass walls covered in murals of books, bravery, and golden fur. Inside, near the entrance, stood a bronze statue of a dog in mid-run, cape flowing, head held high. The plaque at its base read, "To the one who ran toward the fire when everyone else ran away. Thank you, SuperRetrivier." Anna grew up. She graduated with honors and went on to become a veterinarian, dedicating her life to saving animals, just like the one who had saved her. But she never forgot that day. Not because of the fire, not because of the fear, but because of him. Each year, on the anniversary of the fire, the town held a small candlelit ceremony. No speeches, no cameras, just a moment of silence. And after, without fail, someone would leave a red ribbon tied to the school gate. No one ever claimed it. No one ever saw who left it. But it was always there. Children in the town whispered bedtime stories. If you're ever lost in a fire, don't be afraid. SuperRetrivier will find you. If you see a flash of gold and red in the smoke, follow it. It will lead you home. Teachers began using him as a symbol in lessons. Parents taught their kids about courage using his name. And though some outsiders scoffed, called it a fairy tale or mass hysteria, the town believed because they had seen him. He may not have spoken, but he left something stronger than words. Hope. One winter evening, now fully grown, Anna returned to the rooftop where she had been rescued. She sat beside the statue, the city lights glowing behind her, and gently opened her hand. In it, a red thread frayed at the edges, the same one she had kept since that night. "I don't know where you are," she whispered to the wind, "or what you really were, but I hope you know I never forgot." She tied the thread gently around the statue's paw, then stood. As she turned to leave, a warm breeze brushed past her. In the dead of winter, and for the briefest moment, she heard it. A bark, low, familiar, distant. She smiled through tears. Far away under a starlit sky, a golden shape trotted along a forest path. His fur had grown back, his paws were heaved, and his cape, new, brighter, and tied with love, flapped behind him. He paused at the edge of a cliff, looking down at a town full of lights and laughter. He watched, he listened, and then he turned. Because somewhere else, far away, a fire had just begun, and someone was calling for help. Without a sound, he sprinted into the darkness, cape flying, tail high, because the legend never dies. It runs.